Karen and I had a feeling that sharing stories of other seekers would resonate. And wow, were we right. We recently had my hubby Jeff on the podcast to talk about his crossroads moment and the mystical and energetic experiences that changed his life. Not only is it one of our most listened to podcasts, it also inspired many of you to explore experiences for yourself. So today, we're talking to two of my dear friends, Amy Haggarty and David Stone. They are brother and sister, and they recently lost their mother, which led them to have a reading with one of our favorite spiritual mediums, Lisa Nitzkin. The validations that have come from that reading have been both magical and life-affirming, and it's still fresh in their mind. They both also happen to be lifelong seekers who have been open and curious about the power of energy, psychedelics, sound, dreams, and intuition to heal and connect them to who they really are. Whether you're looking for inspiration or you just want to be amazed, this conversation will be sure to give you goosebumps and may give you the extra nudge you need to begin your own seeking journey. Hi, Amy. Hi, David.
Hi, Robyn.
David.
Hi, David. Hi, Karen.
We're so grateful that you both are willing to share your most recent experiences and talk about all of this seeking business.
Yeah. Happy to be
with
here.
everyone.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you all.
It's almost like a little party that we're having.
It is.
About our favorite things.
Amy asked me to lunch and I said, you know what? The best gift you can give me is if you and David would be on the podcast. So
Here we are.
and they obliged. Let's talk about growing up. What was it like in the Stone household? I'm just curious. Was there any talk of the afterlife? What was spirituality?
Short answer is none. I don't think there was any of that. I think there was a kind of a shortage or a lack of a discussion about a lot of things that may matter to varying degrees. At least that was my experience. I think I actually said something about this as part of my eulogy to my mom last year, is that from both her mom and dad, there wasn't a lot of big talk about anything important. And what I picked up from them more than any other way was just how they lived their lives in the world, whether that was their intention or not. But there, again, short answer is this kind of stuff wasn't talked about. I don't think either of them was into anything like this. It was a different era, of course. We were minimally religious as we could have been, and that's a separate thing. But this kind of stuff didn't seep into anything from that. So it's something that wasn't drilled into us from a young age.
I would agree with that and add a few things. Yes, I think there was religion and death as it came through more standard religion. So we had grandparents die, which felt appropriate at the age and the stage. And we did all the rituals and the things that were supposed to come with that. But I agree, there wasn't a concept, I think, of spirituality versus religion. Although, as you look back and reinterpret things, I do always remember that my mom meditated, although she didn't call it meditating at the time. She would often in the afternoon be sitting on the couch in the den with her eyes closed. And my friends remember coming over and being like, oh, don't bother her. But she would never be sleeping. You would walk in and she would open one eye and talk to you. And then she would go back to meditating or whatever she was doing. And what I learned later was that she had actually done training in transcendental meditation. I don't even know if you knew this, David, when she lived in LA in her single years, which she actually had a fair amount of. And at some point she trained transcendentally and she taught me what she was doing when I was younger. And I didn't put it together until actually somewhat recently when I had other friends go through transcendental meditation training and realized that's what she had been doing. So I actually think there was more spirituality definitely from her side that she had that maybe she didn't share or didn't play a role in our lives. But I agree that I never felt this pull through my family. I felt the pull when I was younger in offshoot ways. So I had a dream about my grandfather the night before he died, that it was so clear that he was going to die and that he had come to tell me that he was going to die. And that was the first thing that I have ever had experience like that of. And that stayed with me for the rest of my life. And I always referred back to as my first belief that there was something more that connected us. I do not remember many of my dreams. I could make a screenplay of this one. I remember exactly what it was.
Yeah. That was like a soul visitation.
Yeah. And in a world that I had no words to put it to other than I just was so clear. And
Did you tell your mom about that?
I didn't tell my mom. I told my best friend, Carrie, when I went to school. And he had been ill, but not particularly ill. So he wasn't anywhere nearer dying than we thought he would be. I went to school. I told my friend, Carrie. It's all in my journals, by the way. And then I came home and my mom was waiting for me at the door to tell me that her dad had died.
I have
My
the
grandpa
chills.
had died.
See, goosebumps already. I knew this. Yeah.
And interestingly, this is a grandpa that showed up very clearly for David because he is actually one of David's main people.
Wow.
I don't think not mine, but he is a particular person of David's. But I know that he came.
First of all, I thought I knew a lot. I love what I'm learning today. And I know for you in particular, you were very interested in lucid dreaming.
Oh, yeah, that too.
And I don't know when that started, if that was high school or college.
Later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was interested in lucid dreaming. The other spirituality memory, and then I'm curious, David, if you have any of these when you're young too. I was obsessed. We would go to Park City, Utah, when we were younger. And there was a bookstore, like a new agey bookstore called The Expanding Heart. And they had bowls and books and crystals. And I remember there being this mysterious energy that I loved being in it. And it felt a little edgy and just different. And it was a pull. It was a draw for me every time that we were out there. It doesn't exist anymore. But that was something that always clicked in me and being like, what is this?
Yeah, I remember that store too. And I always liked it. I couldn't have told you at the time why. And I think I probably bought the occasional thing from there, a book or a trinket or something. And I still like those kinds of stores, bookstores. I'm learning something too. I did not know that transcendental, the TM thing that you said about mom, although now that you mentioned it, I do remember walking in on her meditating on the couch. And I want to say there was some yoga too, but I don't know that I would give it like a spiritual, maybe it was just more of an exercise thing.
That feels so ahead of the time.
Yes, I think, and a theme through all of this, especially with my mom, is I think the waters ran deeper than we gave credit for. And that was one example.
And so let's talk about what then led to this most recent experience that you both had together. I mentioned in the intro that your mom recently passed away. And I know, David, you said that as well. So what led you to have this session? And then let's talk about how you prepared and then what had actually happened.
Can I just add too, she passed very quickly.
Yes and no. It was largely unexpected. She woke up one morning having had a stroke overnight, and we quickly learned that it was the kind of thing you could not recover from or live with. And that was confirmed the next morning. And we had really had no choice but to go right into hospice care for her, which lasted a little bit longer than I think we all thought it would. Instead of maybe 2-3 days, it was more like
a full week. And what we actually had, though, was a long period of time where the important conversations and experiences were taking place. She wasn't fully aware and present for them, at least in our minds. A lot happened in that week around her bed. A lot of things that I think were very healing, actually, for our family and precipitated because she gave us that week. So yes, there were many times that I had wished at the time, it'd be nice if we could have been doing this with her. Short of that, I think she actually facilitated sort of the only scenario where that could have happened, in that we all took our turns overnight. We all took care of my dad. We were really a team. We sat vigil in a way that I think was such a unique and singular experience at the time. And I will say too, that she had not been her best for a few years. So she had been declining. She had not been living the life that she would be most content with. So it had felt like a while that she was not thriving. And then this happened, which then very much sped things up, but she wasn't coming from being a fully 100% before.
Having gone through that to a degree with you both, and actually being with Amy when she received that call, it was like you also had, I feel like in that moment, a knowing.
Yeah.
And an ability initially to release some fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And starting to accept, holy shit.
Yeah. And so I was out with all my girlfriends at lunch, and we got the call, I don't remember from who, that said she'd gone to the hospital, and I knew where it was going, and I refused it. For the few solid hours that I said, call David, call my husband, Mark. I'm not there. I can't do this yet. I'm toasting my girlfriends. We're having a glass of wine. I'm going to take this time until I have to face actually what's going on. And then did, but it was an interesting time of,
you knew I feel like you knew what was coming, and you had to give yourself that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing that up because I think we all accept things at our own pace and so differently. It all hits us so differently. We cope with these types of challenges differently.
Yeah.
And I do feel, though, in that moment, you had this knowing of what could be ahead in these next several days.
Yeah.
And watching from a little bit of a distance and knowing what you were all able to do alone and together. You all really did have that alone time with her, and her soul knew. And I know we're going to talk about what ended up happening during your session with Lisa, because I do think you see some validation from that time.
Yeah. And during that time, really everything went on hold. I remember feeling like it was as if we had been called into duty for war, like nothing else. Fortunately, my kids were old enough that they took care of themselves. It was a really unique feeling of this is all we have to do right now.
Yeah. And for those watching or listening, that happens in those moments where there is nothing more important. And you don't really know until you're in it. And that everybody else around you or whatever other responsibilities you have, they just get put on hold. And it's okay.
Yeah.
And in kind of a crazy way, I almost feel weird saying it, but I felt very alive that week with all the things we had to do, a lot of practical things, but a lot of the things, like Amy was saying, that we did as a family around my mom. It was, I don't know what the right word, life-affirming or something. I felt very alive in that time. And again, it feels weird to say it, but in a really good way.
I feel like you were all so present in the moment and like soul connected in the moment because you were connected to yourself too.
That moment too of being able to give back to your mom as a family before she made her crossing, I'm sure she treasured from you all. So I can see what you mean, David. Like it is a bonding moment. Ideally, it is anyway, as a family to be able to unite together as this loved one is getting ready to make that transition and just really give them that level of support as they go.
And spoiler alert, we got some very good confirmation back from her a couple of weeks ago that, what we did was very appreciated.
Beautiful. All right. So we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
And leading into that, how did you prepare for that session with Lisa?
You were kind enough to give us some instructions. And I will back it up a little bit to the actual just even signing up for it because she's hard to get to and her sign up were open and I just jumped on it because it was there. And then I did it. And then I'm like, I don't actually know if I want to do this. But it's hard to get, so I'm going to get it. And then I invited David to it and he was all into it. And it was like 2 months out, so we didn't have to worry about it. But I did for a while and I told people I was doing it. And then I'm like, I don't actually know if I want to, but I was ready, but I put it aside for a little bit. I knew we were in an okay place. We weren't raw and broken with trauma. I trusted that David and I were in the right place to do this and that it would be a really interesting thing to do together. But again, I wasn't 100% even as we signed up.
What was the hesitation? What was going through your mind?
I don't know. I didn't know it sounds weird. I didn't know if I needed it. I didn't know what I needed from it. It wasn't that I don't want it. I was wondering if I needed it. I don't know, which sounds weird. But as most things with this, of course, it is divinely timed and exactly what you need at the exact moment. So as it came closer, Robyn said that in preparation, what she suggested was to make a list of people that we would be interested in hearing from, which we did and which David and I did differently. And
separately and without each other's list.
Yeah, a list of questions that we wanted answered, recognizing that most of the questions, we wouldn't even have to ask most of them, that they will likely be answered throughout the process. But if they weren't, then we had an easy thing to reference of follow-up questions.
Yes. And those are the types of things that nobody's showing that to Lisa or any other spiritual medium prior. Like it's really just for you. And I always say, because you're putting it out energetically, it's going to happen. You're going to get most of those things answered. So let's talk about it. What was the first thing that came through?
Going back to the preparation, I got the same set of instructions. And pretty early on, what amazed me was that the preparation worked. Because when I was doing that prep that you suggested, there was definitely a part of me that thought, how will this work? I don't understand. Like that logical or scientific part of me, like how will thinking about this make this happen? And then very quickly, we learned that it did happen. So right away, that was not that I was looking for some proof to be convinced, but like right away that hit, wow, this actually did work. And then the second layer of that is as we were talking to her and people were talking through her, the things that came through that were just absolutely unknowable by Lisa that came through that she was communicating to us, that if you needed any kind of proof that this is not BS, you quickly dispelled of that notion. These things that were just, maybe they were just in my head. Maybe no one knew about them. Maybe it's something I just hadn't talked about with anyone, but it's all coming through. And the level of detail was just absolutely unbelievable. I think there are some things she mentioned that maybe we didn't quite get or understand. Maybe in the future we will understand them, but there was so much that was just mind-blowing, unknowable, and accurate that You just had no choice but to believe this.
And what was interesting being there together is that we had similar people that were out there for us, right? Which I think made it was convenient. It worked well because everyone that was talking to us knew both of us, but it was very clear and very directed when they were talking to David and when they were talking to me. And those messages were different and different people had different things to say to us. And there was no question about that. She could zero in on each of us and tell us the thing that was most relevant to us. And what David mentioned, I'll go back to this or that list of people in that David took a more direct approach, our mom, on for who he wanted to hear from and focused on that. And I made a laundry list of all of our relatives, largely like the people that I knew were contractually obligated to show up, the ones that they're going to be there, and then put one person on that was something of a test for me. It was someone that David and I grew up with, that we were both friends with. David was very good friends with. He died young, and it was the first young person death that I think either of us experienced. So it was very impactful and meaningful. And I put him on that list. I'm like, I don't know that he'd show up, but if he does, it's because I put him there. And he was the very first one to appear. And he sat right in between us, which was right. He was a year in between us. She said that he died unexpected and going fast. It was a skiing accident. And then just proceeded just right away to be so clear exactly who this person was. It was amazing. And David's like, why would he be here? And I pulled out my journal, which I had right there. I said, oh, because I asked him right here. He's number 3 on my list.
And can I just add to that really quickly, which Amy didn't know, and David, you definitely didn't know this, but I knew him, even though I'm younger than both of you, and we all went to the same high school, but I knew him, and he actually, even though he wasn't my best friend, he was someone I looked up to. We were friends, and I was pretty devastated when he passed away. And the strangest thing, and it's going to make me cry, but I had been with Amy the week prior to your reading, and I was sitting with her, and out of nowhere, he came into my head. We were talking about something, and I have a very vivid memory of being with him in a car. We were talking about Denny's, which I'm sure, David, you know what I'm talking about. And I had been with him in a car, and I've been to Denny's in high school a zillion times, but that was the memory that came up, which is strange to me. And I didn't say anything because I thought, like, why would Amy care that I'm thinking of him? And when she told me that he was the one that she had put him on your list, I had no idea that he's one of your best friends and that you were close with him as well. I had no clue. And I haven't thought of him, I don't know, 20 years, 25, 30. I have no idea. It's been a really long time. And I just had to share that because I thought that was it felt very on purpose.
Yeah. I've had the most meaningful conversations about him than afterwards. David has too. I feel like we reinvoked him a bit.
Well, and I know there's a lot more to get to, but I also want to say, because I've listened to almost the whole session, so thank you for letting me. David, even though I know this friend was the first person to come through, I thought the messages that came through right away, which were spirit animals.
Oh, yeah.
And for you, David, I know what's going on in your life. And I thought, holy shit, because the message that came through for you was so tangible. It was like, couldn't be more clear.
And spirit animals are something that I don't know a lot about, and I'm still learning a little bit more on my own. That was my introduction, especially the 2 specific ones that came to me. One was an owl, a very large owl, and the other was a woodpecker literally pecking at my head, which doesn't sound the most pleasant thing in the world, but apparently is a sign of protection. And it was the 2 of them separately and together. It was very consistent with a lot of the other things that I heard from our ancestors and our friends. And it was all part of this bigger picture of things that I heard and learned that were very comforting to me.
Yeah. And I would say too, there was something about that woodpecker and what's going on and all the thinking and all the things going on right now in your head that I thought was also literal too.
Yeah. And this is, again, part of more of what we heard from our mom and things that just absolutely unknowable by Lisa, how I can live in my head and overthink and
Yes.
all kinds of things like that are 100% accurate and just, very consistent with the reality and other things that we heard. Pretty incredible.
Talk about your mom. How did she come through?
Very reluctantly, apparently, which was consistent with her personality. All of these other people, our friend and our grandparents, our grandma in particular, were front and center. And our mom was back in the wings, and which again was very consistent with her personality, letting other people take the attention. And Lisa had to coax her out a little bit. And it was in particular our mom's mom who was hogging the stage, which is also very consistent with her personality. And of course, Lisa wouldn't know this, but if I remember correctly, that she was really, Lisa had to draw her out, that even our friend or our grandparents were going before her. And she wasn't, I don't know if saying that she was reluctantly joining is the right way to put it, but Lisa, again, had to encourage her to come out.
And then when she did, she kept saying too, oh, she's such a sweet energy. She said such sweetness. And honestly, the one word that everyone had to say, oh, she was the sweetest woman. She was the sweetest woman. So even to have that come through as her spirit was how sweet she was. So then she was reluctant. She called her forward. And then she actually seemed, it was interesting. She was very impressed with her command of communicating to us. Lisa didn't know that she had recently died. And she was actually very surprised to find that she had recently died. It seemed, and this was just my interpretation of when she hears from people, was that she seemed very experienced and she was a very good communicator, that it seemed like she had mastered this format of conversation more. So when she did come out, she did have a lot to say, and she seemed very much in control and taking charge and had her hands in different things as it came to our family. And she would say, Lisa would get a kick out of it. She'd say, problem solved. David's having breathing issues. Problem solved. I'm working on it. Caleb, my younger son, sees his friends aren't great. She's working on new friends. She's going to get a new friend group for him. Already happened. Problem solved.
But also, to be explicit, all of that stuff came out without us saying anything about it.
Yes.
Lisa did not know anything about any of that. It all just came out and it was right on point.
I think for people who may have not gone to a medium yet, that's a really good distinction to make, that Lisa really just, it's like she's literally seeing those people there right in the room with you and experiencing every aspect of, she almost can channel their personality right through her. And to your point earlier, when she did me and my family, like my grandmother came through and she had the microphone just like she would in real life. And then my sister was the one that they had to pull and drag from behind. So it's just so interesting how she can not only give you the messages, but really give you that assurance through the personality and the way they were in their earthly bodies. They're still very much part of that same energy and part of your lives in that way.
And Lisa also didn't know who was walking through the door with Amy. She had Amy's name, and I think you guys had met before.
Oh,
Didn't know who Amy's
right.
son was. So if you really want to be cynical, so maybe she could have looked some of this stuff up. She didn't even know who I was, that I was coming in. So makes it even just more kind of mind-blowing, some of this detail and accuracy.
Yeah. So when she says, oh, I'm seeing stones. Is the word stone?
Wait, did she really?
Something? Yeah. Stones.
I don't remember that.
Is really, they keep showing me stones. What does that mean to you? And I said, that's our name, but she didn't. She only knows me as Amy Haggarty.
That's
I mean,
right.
it was Amy Stone. It's David Stone. So she didn't know that. She what stones have.
I mean, none of this ever ceases to amaze me.
Yeah.
And I can even do it myself and I still can't do it. Like,
It's like charades. It's
so crazy.
they have to get that message and then figure out how to communicate that back to you in a way that, or at least somewhat interpret it, but it's a two-way street. And I think that's why it's always good if you can go with someone else, because as I know from my experience, Robyn was listening in and she would just be like, Garrett, it's like, this is so obvious. And you're so taken in the moment and all of the energy that's coming through and you're trying so hard to process.
I don't know any K names, but like my family is named K and yeah.
Well, no, that happened with Jay, actually. She was like, through our mama, a Jay name came up. And at the time, we had no idea what she was talking about. We couldn't think of one. Then like a half hour later, we realized, oh, something else came up. It was, oh, her name starts with a J.
Yeah.
This information is like coming so fast at you, and it's such an unusual situation. Like your brain is not really equipped to deal with this. I've made this analogy. I don't know if you've ever gone skydiving, but I remember I did it forever ago. And I remember people telling me you're not going to remember the part when you're in the air because it's just so unusual, so crazy. And immediately after I did it, I didn't remember it. And to this, of course, even now I don't remember it. It's like that. It's just such an unusual situation. And thank God we were able to record it because you couldn't keep up with everything at the time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, there were so many details. And I will give a plug to Lisa because I have seen and participated, not on this personal level of a reading, but the way this all plays out is so warm and there's so much love. And it is like having a conversation with a good friend who also happens to be talking to all these people in the background. There's no, and when she personifies that my grandmother is large and in charge, she doesn't become her. She doesn't become a different person. It's the most fluid and loving process and conversation that I think really makes it unique in that she still is herself and she still is very relatable as a normal human who can like also laugh at some of the things that's happening and see the ridiculousness in some of the things that she's communicating to you. But there's a very human level of what's going on in the conversation too, that I think just makes it so special.
I agree. It's like she never forgets what a conduit of this love she is. That's really what she's doing. All these people, it takes so much energy for them to even step forward to have this communication and conversation. And it's coming really through her interpretation. And she has to raise her energy level to a certain point to be able to get that information. But she's really participating. And I couldn't agree more. That love of, she recognizes every soul almost as special in their own way, regardless if they're bigger than life or if they're really shy. She just has this way of seeing them almost literally and being able to communicate that essence back to you. So it's such a wonderful gift. And she is so incredible at it. So we're lucky to have her.
I could not agree more, which is why finding people who are able to translate these messages, who they are and how they do it it's very difficult to find those people. And she's someone who is so authentic, so loving, so good at what she does. And she doesn't try to make things fit. That's the other part too. She's very clear. She'll go down a path and you're trying to make, she's no.
Yeah.
There's that part too. What was your feeling when you left that day?
I think we walked out different in different places. I think I would say, and David could explain, I felt a little more overwhelmed from you because there was so much information going to you. I think I had less details coming to me. I felt why I do these spiritual activities. There is like a high that I get from them that reminds me of the connection and of the bigger picture. And I can go a while, maybe it'll be a few months, sometimes it's a year. And it's like, I need that type of connection again to refuel my belief and my knowing that this does exist and this is real. So this was part that for me too. Yes, it was about my mom, but it was about that I knew it was time for me to have a reconnection. And this did it in spades. Like it topped almost all of the other ones that I've had because it was so personal. It was so real. So I walked out just full again of the feeling of that validation, which really was all that I was looking for. I was looking for a validation, a reminder that this can be real and that it is. And I will say what I walked out with was the ability to bring my mom back into my life. Like when she passed, since she's been gone, she was just gone. I wasn't like crushed and crying. I process emotions rather quickly. And I really felt like I processed that time and I missed her, but she was just gone. She just disappeared. And as the longer amount of time that's gone on, that hasn't felt right, but I didn't know how to get her back. And what this did was actually bring her back to me, but bring her back in an interesting way. The mom that I remember now actually feels more like the essence of my mom that I might not have even known. Like in my mind, it's her in her 20s when she did have this whole period of life before she had us. She was single. She was a stewardess, as my dad says, not a flight attendant, a teacher, and she lived a life. And that was the mom that sort of shone through and the kind of the mom that I always like wished she had a little bit more of. And I think it reminded me that she did and she is. And so I feel like I've been able to walk away with carrying that essence of her. That wasn't what she looked like that last week. That wasn't how she felt and how she felt to be around the last 2 years of her life, or even the past 30 years of her life, where she was saddled down in a life. So that was my gift from this, is that I now feel like I have her and I have the best of her.
That is one of the best recaps I think I've ever heard of the experience, because that's where it's a mutual gift, because she can leave you with that memory of her essence, of her purest self on this planet, and you can walk away with that memory. I mean, that's so good. I think that really is the foundation of why this experience is so healing for both, not just the people who've been left behind, but the souls who have departed, who, to your point, may have changed over time. They may not have been as connected to their soul and self at the end. And this lets them just rise above that and remind us of who they really were. Oh, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that.
And
Great.
David, how did you walk away? Was it a different feeling initially?
It was a little bit similar. I wanted to do this for some of the same reasons. I wanted to bring it back in kind of front and center in my brain. I wanted to make it more real almost a year out. I wanted to maybe give it another dimension. When we walked out, we had lunch afterwards, and my head was definitely spinning. And I knew I had to make a little more sense of it one way or another. And I did listen. So I listened to it the next day. My plan was to listen to it sometime that week. And I couldn't wait any longer. I had to listen to it again. And it was much more powerful that time when I was listening to it on my own at my own time. I had the benefit of being able to pause it when I needed to, or go back. I was like, what was that? Or I want to hear that again. It was a lot more emotional that time because of those reasons. Just more time to stop on something when I wanted to and let something really land. I ended up, as I was listening to it, I opened a Word document and I was making notes. Okay, what are the most important things that I want to take away from this? And I ended up with like about a 4 or 5 page document because there was a lot that was coming at me and I didn't remember a lot of it from the actual session, which another great reason for having the recording of it. So there was, out of that 2+ hours, that I distilled down into a Cliff Notes version of it for what is the most important stuff for me to take away from this. And there literally was one kind of segment where it was through certainly our mom, maybe a grandma and grandpa too, where it was like, David, if you take anything away from this, let it be this. Is it bold in that Word document? But it's just part of, again, 4 or 5 pages of stuff like that.
I will also mention then, because I think it played such an important part, at least in the next 24 to 48 hours, probably for both of us, were the signs.
Yes.
That Lisa was very clear throughout of who is communicating to us through what mechanisms, through what signs, and what we should look for. And if we haven't noticed it before, we are going to see it with that clarity. And for me, there was a number of them, but one of them was, your mom communicates to you through rainbows. Do you know that? And I said, I hadn't noticed, that hadn't been a thing. You will see rainbows. You will see rainbows through her. There's so many, like a number of them, but this one in particular, I went after the session. It's a beautiful day that day. I went for a walk to the beach with my daughter. I was telling her the story of it all because she's super into all of this too. And as we're walking down a path to the beach, I wish I could show the picture.
Oh, we will show it. I have it.
It's a plastic ring that has a rainbow on it that is sitting up on a rock right in the middle of the path that we're walking on. It stopped us in our tracks. There was no way to go around this perfect little rainbow that was sitting.
It looks fake when
right
you all
there.
see it, because I'll share it on Instagram or something.
Yeah, it was astonishing. It was not, it was several hours after it. And I'm like, oh, and sometimes I don't necessarily notice things. I miss things sometimes. And I think that's known too. They're like, how about this? Couldn't be more obvious rainbow right directly in your path. And then a few days later, it had been my birthday. I went out to lunch with my girlfriends. I'm telling them this whole story about the session and about the rainbow, and they're just freaking out. They can't control themselves. And someone just says, you just open your damn present. And then I open the present, and it is this little rainbow necklace, beautiful rainbow necklace that they had all given me. And apparently talked a lot.
You have to understand the weirdest part. There's so much weirdness, right? About Cosmo. But the craziest thing is we were just figuring out what to get Amy for her birthday. It's a big birthday. We wanted to get something special. And for some reason, we're like, we feel like we should get her jewelry, which isn't necessarily the first thing I would think of to get Amy. But we were like, we're going to get her jewelry. And then we were trying to think about what to get her. And I don't know, out of nowhere, we're like, let's get her a beautiful rainbow. That did not mean anything at the time, except that we just thought it was pretty and it represents Amy's spirit and so much. And we chose this rainbow, beautiful necklace weeks before you guys had your reading. And when I actually knew from that day, after you sent me the picture of the rainbow and I got to listen to most of the recording, I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't tell you, but all I thought was Judy had such a hand in getting you that she gave you that gift. And we just were the people who gave it to you.
Yeah.
It's one of the most unbelievable stories to me. And that's why I'm so glad we're getting to share it today. That is from your mom.
Yeah. So the signs, that's what kept that. Again, I refer to it as a high. Like I was on a high for these few days afterwards because things kept coming. 777 that she told me was coming. The deer that my husband was going to be coming, that was his dad right outside our window. Like it was this intensity of connection at that time.
The 777, did you know that week it was in my download that I shared?
No.
That came from Spirit. Look back.
Really?
It was, you need to look for 777. Look at my weekly download
yeah.
from that week.
That's funny because that had never
Yeah.
really been my numbers.
Yeah, that came through. David, what about you?
I like some smaller things. This is a part of a bigger story from Amy that if I hadn't heard this, I never would have thought of it. But Amy has, I'll tell her story really quickly, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, that Amy had thought that our grandma, our mom's mom, had been communicating with her through a flickering light.
Oh, yes, the light. Yes.
So there's a light in my bedroom that for months was not going on. And I've just been too lazy to do anything about it. And it's usually off. The next morning when I got up and turned the lights on, that one went flickered on briefly. Also has largely been off since then, went back on this morning.
Wow.
Speaking of rainbows, I think the rainbow thing was directed primarily, not entirely at Amy. I just happened to walk by someone this morning holding a coffee mug with a rainbow on it, for what that's worth. The next day, as I was listening to the recording, and I think the angel numbers was also more directed at Amy, but as I started listening to the recording, I happened to notice that it was 11:11, which is a thing I always like to see on the phone or on the clock. But to backtrack a little bit, before we started the session officially, we're sitting on one couch of Lisa's, she's sitting on another one, and there's a kind of coffee table in front of the couches. And I noticed a dime on the floor, and I thought I was just being nice. I grabbed it, picked it up, and put it on the coffee table. And Lisa freaked out about the presence of the dime. I didn't know anything about this, but apparently coins in general and maybe dimes specifically.
Specifically.
Yeah.
And later she says, yep, that was your mom that put that there. So I guess I don't even remember doing this. I grabbed it, I put it in my pocket, I took it home with me. The next morning, as I'm listening to the recording, I am wearing the same jeans the next day. And I just, not thinking about it, put my hands in my pocket and pulled out the dime, which is actually right here, right now. I still have with me. So I've had a few of those things.
Well, because you think about it, like most of us don't really carry change anymore, right? So it's so odd that you'd been at her house. Who has change that's on her floor? That's even more, it's so random. That's so cool. And I also want to bring up one more thing, which is that my dad came through.
Oh, yes, he did.
And as he often does with people that I know and love, will come through in these sessions. And the funniest part of it to me is that normally he'll come through and then Lisa or whomever the medium is will say, all right, we know, thank you, Bob, Robert, and bye.
Yeah.
And you said, no, wait, hey, can you have him hang out for a second? And I love that. That was actually pretty awesome. And
I think it's so great that he wants to be the showman of all of these experiences.
Yeah, he was right there. I mean, probably second man out the door. And she said, I'm supposed to talk to him too.
Yeah.
So that was,
he's definitely my partner. Yeah. He's my partner in all this. So it's really validating for me. So thank you.
I will mention two other people that came through or things that came through because this could be interesting to people. A friend's dog who had recently died came through. That had been surprising to people and us too, that animals can come through in readings like this.
Yes.
But also that it wasn't necessarily random, that she was potentially going to join us, which a possible explanation for how and why the dog showed up.
Yes, absolutely. She was tangentially connected to this reading, even though she wasn't there. But so she had a little dog who had died
Who was probably on her list if she got to the point of making a list. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the little dog came through for a quick message to my friend, which was neat. And then I also had the soul of a little baby that she found, which was, she explained, she asked if I had a miscarriage, which I had a few miscarriages back in the day. And she said that those souls will come through during readings as well. And that they are usually there to teach the person, the mama, lesson as well. So those were two out of there are a lot of deceased humans, but those were two that I think were also a little surprising
Thank you for sharing that. That you're right. That is really special. And both of those types of experiences have come up. And as someone who may have a reading, you would never expect that to show up. So how would you, now I know you said for you, it was something where you walked away and you do feel more connected to your mom and it was healing in that way and revitalizing in that way. David, how are you feeling after that reading? And how do you compare this to other experiences that you've had?
I felt in a lot of ways really good and comforted by a lot of what I heard. And part of my responsibility that I'm giving myself is to make sure that that I keep this kind of front and center. And maybe to your second question, I've done a lot of these things over the years too. I've tried just about everything I can get my hands on, some of it through you, some of it through Amy, some through both of you, and other things I found. And a lot of it maybe just didn't come to me at the right time because a lot of it maybe just passed through my consciousness pretty quickly. And I feel like if there's anything I'm ever going to hold on to, it's this stuff. And that's part of why I wanted to make that file of notes. And I want to, again, just make sure it stays front and center in my consciousness, because there was all the detail. I can't get into all of the details here, nor are they probably relevant, but I want to make sure that what I heard and what I felt stays with me, because there was a set of things that I would call like emotional benefits for me, things I heard that I didn't necessarily hear when these people were around, things I probably intellectually knew, but it's different to hear it even in this format. And I also got some practical things that if I pay attention to them and keep it in my mind, it will benefit me, presumably. I'm going to give it every chance to. So I'm trying to take full advantage of this. There was a couple of things, like you were saying earlier, like our mom would just say, problem solved. You've got this problem, she's got it, problem solved. I'm still going for some outside help in that specific area, but literally every day, every night, I'm trying to feel selfish about it, almost asking her for help in this area. I want to take advantage of it as much as possible.
What's funny, so many of the modalities that we talk about does put a lot of onus on ourselves to really do the work, as we like to say. And I think this is a modality that brings forth all of the people in our lives and reminds us that we're not alone and that they are there to help us and support us in doing that work. And that, I think, is why it feels so good, because it just gives us that infusion of, oh my gosh, I don't have to do all of this on my own. I do have this whole spirit team around me at all times to help. You're smiling, David.
Yes, because I don't think I finished the thought earlier when I said, like in my notes, there was a piece that came through is, if you take anything away from this, let it be this. I think I stopped there. After that colon was that you are not alone in this, that we are here for you, because that happens to be the way I think a lot.
Oh God, I'm going to cry. That's so good.
So don't start, because you're going to get me to it too. But that, as much as anything else, again, it was the explicit direction from them. It came through loud and clear in so many ways. And a lot of times Lisa was saying, they're yelling this at me. This is very important. Exclamation point, exclamation point. Make sure you get this. You don't forget this. And that was literally said, if you take anything from this, it's that you're not alone in this. And
that is one of the most important things that anyone can know, honestly, because we can all feel really alone. And I know for me in this work, that is really one of the key things, is I know I'm never alone. And I'm full of the best of friends and the most incredible family. And yet you can still have those moments. But now I always am talking to my spirit team. And I think for you, what I'm so impressed by in both of you is you've created your own integration. And for many people who've done any sort of psychedelic work and other type of energetic work, there is a protocol with integration, and you're applying that here with this mediumship work, which I think is really important, because there is so much to be gained here if you really are looking at it as a healing modality. And most people who are going through a grief are trying to heal from that.
Yeah. And just on that point, many times in the last, so it's been, I think this was 2 weeks ago today was when we had the session. Many times since then, I have thought, okay, yes, these people are with me. Sometimes it's a matter of, okay, maybe I would like some more people on this plane around me right now. But, but if nothing else, I've got these other people with me.
Right.
And it is comforting.
And they're connected to their core essence on the other side. They have all that wisdom. They're not tainted by this 3D world that we're living in. They see you as the essence of you too. Just think about your mom, your grandparents, even your friend. They know the you that is you. And I think the more we can connect with those souls, those spirits, that energy on the other side, it will remind us. It was like we were saying earlier, Amy, about your mom, about now you're reconnected with the true essence of her. They are connected with the true essence of you. They see you and who you really are, not in the midst of all the problems and all the things. And if we can connect, that is the best guidance we can get.
And there was literally some of that, again, directed at me, that it was something along the lines of your mom sees you, she hears you, she understands you, she gets you. You may think that some people that don't always understand you or see you or hear you, but she does, and she always will. There was a lot of that too, which again, it's one thing to get that maybe when she's here, but it's a close second to get it in this way too.
Totally. Yeah. And I would say too, with the different experiences that I know you both had, and David, with some of the psychedelic work that you've done, where you may have seen and felt different things, this to me felt clearer in some ways. I don't, that's
Absolutely. Yes. As long as you're going to out me as a drug user, yes.
Sorry.
I'll talk about, no. Yes. Those
I'm not going to the extent of it, David.
Yeah. Those experiences, I went into that for the last 3 years now. I have done a lot of that. And I think I've been looking for a lot of things out of those experiences without really getting, like you said, this kind of clarity or this kind of direct kind of experience. Those are very different experiences for me. They've been very physical experiences for me. More recently, after an experience where I was sober at Amy's house, actually, last year after our mom died, I had a very breakthrough kind of experience that I think opened the floodgates to some more emotions that have come through in psychedelic experiences that aren't necessarily specific to anything, but I could intellectually connect dots very easily and have made me a lot more emotional. Before we got on this call, I had music on, and the last song I heard made me cry. Commercials will make me cry now. I feel a team celebrating winning a game. It's become very easy. So it's all been part of this process. But yes, this was much more, I don't know if direct is the right word, than some of the experiences. It probably is a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will, to circle back to signing up for doing this originally, David, I did this for you.
I was going to say that earlier, and I think we did talk about it. I was going to say, I think as much as any other reason for signing up in Amy's mind was for my benefit. Yeah.
It was. And then at the point, that's when I'm like, I didn't know what I would get from it until I realized that, I very much need that validation as well. But I felt that this would be something that would be really important for you.
Yeah. And I don't know if we've said it explicitly, maybe it's come through, like I'm dealing with some stuff. And as we said that day, like my relationship with our mom was a lot more complicated than Amy's. That's where this was coming from.
Obviously, there's healing going on. And what we all know is that whatever you have gone through, whether it was in this lifetime or another, all that energy, it's trapped in us. Yeah. And so you've been very steadily chipping away at that and releasing. And that's what all of this is about. And I would also ask you both, for those listening, because you both have experienced so many different types of spiritual modalities and experiences, what would you say if you haven't, let's say, lost somebody yet that's very close to you? What other experiences would you suggest somebody try or be open to? Is there anything in particular that started you?
I don't know if this started me. The one that has stuck with me the most or continued to be the most useful to me was the astrology reading with Stevie, which I did, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, that I go back to that recording when I lose sight of myself, which doesn't happen all that often. When I get off track though, and I lose sight of my core, I go back to that reading with her, and it is like nothing else. It grounds me and reminds me of the person that I am, because she did such an amazing job of capturing and explaining the person I am and the consistencies and the everything. That one was, at the time it was great, but over time, I've been amazed that I can continue to go back to that reading with her explaining how I am, why I am, how I am, and who I am. It reminds me who I am. And it actually is like a really key part of me being able to get myself back on track when I feel like I am spinning out in a way that it feels unlike me. Mm-hmm. So that one was really important for me, because I feel like she captured the essence of who I am and helped me explain that to myself, which has then helped me explain that to other people too. That reading helped me form an understanding of myself in a way that I hadn't had before. And that has continued to be useful to me.
What about you, David?
It's hard to say. I don't know that I've got a great answer for that. And obviously it's so specific to any one person. And, also like I'm speaking for both of us, I think also just been very lucky to have the ability to access some of these people and who are far flung and necessarily in places where we live, ability to take advantage of some of that. And there's so much information out there. And I, speaking as someone who can get pretty overwhelmed by it pretty quickly. Every time I see one person or talk to one person about something, I walk away with 5 other recommendations. I'm like, I got to narrow this focus a little bit. So it can get pretty overwhelming, but there's so much information out there, whether it's on podcasts or books, so many just practices, whether you need something that's physical to help regulate your nervous system or help you sleep better or help you feel better or help you be more calm, whether it's a breathing thing. The breathing has come up as something I'm dealing with right now that was largely came out of the book Breath, which is a big bestseller book that a lot of people have read, but there's so much in things like that. And I had a reading by Stevie too, and I probably should listen to it again because probably just as good quality wise for me as it was for Amy, but probably at the time, one of the things that I let pass by my consciousness more quickly or more easily than I should have.
And they can all hit you at these different times and come back.
It's got to come at the right time. And I think this medium reading, I think time will tell. We're 2 weeks out from it, but I think I said it before. If anything, it's the one that I want of the things I've done so far, and I'm going to keep doing things, but it's the one that I want to stick with me as more than anything else.
Well, as Lisa would probably say if she was with us right now, we all have the ability to do this work, not maybe in the way that she does, but in terms of the signs that you're seeing following a reading is also a sign to continue to connect. And even if it's a matter of taking 10 minutes in the morning and just saying, hey, Ma, what do I need today? Just inspire me, come to me and give me that guidance. We all have that ability to just listen and tune into what they may have to tell us. And so it's continuing to look for the signs. It's continuing to ask them to be there and show us.
Well, and to that point, one thing that came through many times through multiple of these people, at least was clear to me, when I think it came through explicitly, where Lisa would communicate to us, like, bring them in. They want to be part of this. You may need to ask for it or bring them in, but they want to take advantage of them. They're there. They want to do this for you.
I feel like they're assigned to us for their job, but like that they want. So use them. And I would say too, Amy, it's so interesting to me when you brought up having that dream with your grandfather. And I know what you've been told over and over is that you have so much of this ability. And we all have the ability, by the way. Yours is actually pretty pronounced. And it's for you to continue to
figure out what to do with. Yes. Because I do get similar messages from all of these people that tell me that I have some of this too. And I don't yet know what that necessarily looks like.
But even the knowing, right, to get this reading and know that it would put David on a certain path, and you didn't even realize how much it would also benefit you. But it's you have these knowings. You are pivotal in my life. You are a pivotal connector in my life. And so there's so many things you have introduced in my own life that have gotten me to where I am today and into my own abilities and beliefs. And that's because of you. You're a pillar in my life and a guide. So thank you. And I have one more thing, because this is something that Amy does. And I don't know if you do this, David, but can you talk about the Wim Hof as a practice? Just because we were talking about resources and practices, and it's something that I think has helped you in your life.
Yeah. So I jump in Lake Michigan.
Which is cold, people.
It gets cold in Lake Michigan. So over COVID, it started when we were all looking for things to do to stay sane. A friend and I started doing cold plunges in Lake Michigan. Now, not in the coldest time of Lake Michigan, because we will still see people on the news or on the cover of the papers who are like chipping through ice to get there. And even I think is crazy. But we started dipping in the lake for a few minutes at a time when it was at its almost coldest and through the winter. And it just became a really addictive thing to do. It's my friend who does it has lupus and she has joint issues. So she really notices a very physical difference when she does it. I will notice it if I have particular pain at any time and I do it, and that definitely helps feel better. But it has just been a little challenge. Someone described it as, what I love is that if you do that, like nothing else in your day is as intimidating, because you did that and then you got yourself in, and then afterwards you just have this rush of, I can't describe all of the things that come from it. If you read up on it, tons of benefits, both physical, emotional, psychological, all of that. But it just feels good. And it just feels like you did something that day that not everyone else did. And yeah, it's been a real fun thing for me to continue, not with any religiosity or regularity. And that is what I have learned about any of the stuff that I do, is that anything that has to happen every day or regularly is not going to be the thing that I do. So I meditate when I remember to, but when I told myself that I don't have to do it first thing when I wake up and I could do it anytime during the day, it became a lot easier. And if I don't do it today, then I do it tomorrow. So I think that there's some of these rituals that are probably effective in their regularity, For me, I've learned that is a ritual that will never work for me. So jumping in the lake too, when I'm able to and when I have time, it's great.
Yeah.
But I don't set myself on any schedule that allows me to then feel like I failed if I didn't do it.
The have-tos. I wanted to bring that up because there's something about resilience too with that. It helps you to know how resilient you can be. Like you can do that.
You can do it.
And Robyn, I do that as well. My gym happens to have a cold plunge. I come and go with that. Although for some reason that's easier for me than a cold shower, but I've been taking cold showers every morning.
Agreed.
Which I hate, but I tell myself every morning, I've done this every day for the last however long. I can do it today. I really have to put myself into it. And like Amy said, it gives you an emotional and physical boost afterwards. And I do some Wim Hof breathing stuff too. I can't tell you all of the benefits of it, but they're there. And especially if you do it with some regularity, I believe. So I do as much as I can. And I think there's some benefits to doing that. Absolutely.
I love that.
I was just trying to think of if somebody was Googling this and they were Googling, should I go have a session with a medium? If somebody asked you guys that question, what would you say?
So I've talked about our experience just in the last 2 weeks with multiple friends, and I'd put them into two categories. First, they have to qualify to maybe have lost a parent or a sibling, someone very close to them. One category is people who I know for a fact would benefit from this because I know they struggle with that loss and maybe have unresolved issues. I've talked to other people who have said, I don't know. I don't know that I want to do with that. Some people maybe just aren't ready for it or built for it or whatever. And maybe I'm sure there's some in between too, but I've encountered people on one end of the spectrum or the other so far.
I'll put the in between with the conversation that we both had with some family members who we told this, and they needed to hear this from people that they trust and believed. They were open-ish to it, but also skeptical of it. The difference of hearing people that they could believe is telling the truth and really sharing their experience. That I think is the middle category of people that have an inkling of wanting to believe, but haven't been given enough to show that it's not a crock shit. So then believable people, which is why I think Lisa is really helpful too as a believable person herself, because she also is a person that you just know or could know as a human as well. So I think that middle category is people that, and maybe that's what this podcast is.
That's exactly why we're doing this.
So we're believable people.
We're somewhat normal.
I was going to say that was me actually, now that I think of it, before we did this, because I've been in the room where other people have had this more directed at them than I did. And I've seen their minds blown. So intellectually, I got it, but I didn't viscerally experience it. And now that I have, I don't want to say I'm like crazy about this, but I feel it now and I can't deny it.
Yeah. And I think it can also lead with both of you to really working on your own communication skills with spirit or the other side at some point, because you can do it. We all have that ability. It's just really working it like a muscle and understanding. You're both very intuitive. You wouldn't be where you are in life if you weren't. And so it's just taking it up to another notch and better understanding what you feel or see or somewhat hear. And it's not exactly how you necessarily would picture it. For me, I'm not seeing someone 3D in front of me, but I see them in my head. I receive messages from your mom from time to time, and I did during that week. And I can't explain it, but I could hear it and I could get my own images, but it's not exactly how people necessarily think of it. So I know you can be working on this yourself, and hopefully it's also where this leads. Yeah.
It's the idea that if people can hear your story, they can be inspired to seek as well. That's exactly why we wanted to share this today, is because the two of you have had this experience and it has changed you in ways, and it has opened yourself up to the possibility. And I think if that's the only thing that people take away from, that is one step closer into the next step on their seeking journey.
And then for them to be able to find the people though, right? So that is the steps that are so important. So then exactly what you're doing, you don't want to inspire people and then have them find some random person and have them squash any of that or kill any of that openness that they had.
It's true. And that's why the people that we have on Seeking Center are people that Karen and I have had readings with, that we believe in and that we would recommend. So there are other people of Lisa's caliber that you can find. And for those that are watching or listening that have had really good experiences, let us know. We're always looking for spiritual mediums that we can trust and we can recommend, because they're so in demand. Everybody will lose somebody that's important, and to have that connection, that reconnection with the right medium can be life-changing. So there's a need. So
Thanks for sharing, both of you.
Thank you both so much.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you for trusting and having the experience. And I can't wait to see where everything goes and for more signs.
Yeah.
Synchronicities.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
guys.
Love you guys.